Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and today I want to talk about two new Type 20 Breguet watches that have been released. Now it gets a little bit confusing, but there's the Breguet Type 20 Chronograph 2057, and that's the military version, and the 20 is actually spelled out with Arabic numerals. And then there's the Type 20 Chronograph 2067, which is the civilian version, and the 20 is spelled out with Roman numerals. Rather than refer to the differences in the 20 or the 2057 versus 2067, for this video I'm just going to keep talking about either the military version or the civilian version, since I think most of you will be able to best follow along that way. Now, the main thing to note is both versions have a diameter of 42 millimeters. It's a bit bigger than the old versions, and it's been a few years since Type 20s were made by Breguet. Thickness on both watches is 14.1 millimeters. Both watches offer 100 meters of water resistance and are in stainless steel cases. There are two different movements that are used, and that's because the functions on the dial are different between the two models. The military version uses the caliber 7281, and the civilian version uses the caliber 728. Both of these are flyback chronograph movements. Both of them have approximately 60 hours of power reserve. Both of them are automatically winding movements and beat at 5 hertz. Both of these watches retail for $18,000 US. In terms of the differences, let's start with the military version. It does have a sort of onion-shaped crown. It has a bidirectional bezel, but it really only has a pip on it. The dial itself is black. It has a 30-minute totalizer at the 3 o'clock position, which is slightly larger than the running seconds over at the 9 o'clock position. There's a date window at the 4:30 position. The lume has a sort of green color even when it's not glowing, and it has a syringe-style handset. Moving over to the civilian version, we have more of that straight crown format. We also have a bidirectional bezel here, but there are markings for the hours. Once again, we have a black dial, but the lume is now the Fotina rather than the green. And we have a 3 sub-dial configuration. The larger 3 o'clock sub-dial is a 15-minute totalizer. There's a 12-hour totalizer down at the 6 o'clock position, and the running seconds remains over at the 9 o'clock position. This version of the watch uses alpha-style hands. So what are my overall thoughts on these watches? To be blunt, these are not watches I would buy. I'm going to start with the civilian version, which I like less. The two things I actually prefer about this civilian version are having the hour markings all the way around the bezel and the practicality of having a 12-hour totalizer for the chronograph. Everything else I like less. The crown is less interesting. The Fotina works, but I don't like it as much as the green. I hate the alpha hands. And overall, I find this version looking very cluttered. In terms of the military version, I do like the syringe-style hands. I think the mint green-looking lume provides a nice military aesthetic. I prefer the more onion-shaped crown going on. And overall, it's a cleaner look. I don't find the bezel with just having the pip on it particularly practical. And as longtime viewers know, I'm not a fan of cropped Arabic numerals, so the fact that the 3 o'clock subdial cuts into the 2 and the 4 bothers me inherently, but so does the 4:30 date window, which cuts into the 5. And that's actually probably the biggest focus point I think a lot of people are going to have, that 4:30 date window. The original watches I don't believe had dates. Over time, Breguet's had no date versions and date versions of the Type 20. This implementation, I think, is going to land like a lead balloon. It's weird having the word Swiss made under the date rather than down at the 6 o'clock position. It just calls more attention to it. And for a watch style that to me seems to be screaming for enthusiasts to want to go and buy it, it's a decision that I think is just going to alienate many enthusiasts of the historic models. At $18,000, we're really talking entry-level Breguet, but I'm really struggling to see $18,000 on the dial here. And while the movement tech is impressive, there's just a lot of competition in the luxury chronograph space. I think people who are into the vintage look are probably going to lean more towards something out of the Longines catalog, and those who are after an ultra-luxe chronograph have a lot more aesthetically pleasing options from other brands. But anyway, those are my thoughts. What do you guys think of these Type 20 watches? Please leave a comment below regarding that. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you want to be notified when I have new videos, just click subscribe. Take care, everybody.